session and considered public employment performance evaluation of title superintendent, conference with labor negotiations. District designated representative was Jennifer Marsh, chief business officer, and unrepresentative employee was the superintendent. The board did not the board did not take any action. We will do that when we resume to closed session, and we will continue with the discussion and closed session items at the end of the opening session. And now we're going to start with item 3, spotlights the Coastway. Dr. Ramontes?
Yeah, tonight we're going to celebrate Kings Mountain, the community. Mr. Castillo, if you'd like to come on up.
We can hear you.
No, we can. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Today, I would like to honor our spotlight for this week. Each week, this individuals generously give up their time to strengthen and support our students with literacy, math skills, through mini lessons, one-on-one reading, and hands-on projects, such as building tiny planters for our gardens. During our Kings Canyon Woodwork Hour, your dedication and your commitment helps make Kings Mountain an even amazinger place for our students, for the learning, and for their growth. We deeply appreciate you. And with that said, we'll honor the individuals. Jean Turry, Doug Foster, Sabin Foster, Stephen Allen,
Yeah, but they're not here. No, she's. No. Right. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh.
Now we are going to move on to the Kings Mountain Elementary School.
We would also like to take a moment to recognize Leslie Schmutz, our administrator assistant at Kings Mountain. She is really dependable with her presence on campus. When the power goes out, she gets generators running, helps keep the facility operating. She cleans up after the students, fixes, makes repairs. She troubleshoots when the technology is not working. When our health tech is out, she is ready to roll up her sleeves and start helping students with injuries. Leslie steps in with care and compassion. When the students are feeling sad, overwhelmed, or upset, she is there to listen, guide, and support. She's also plays an important role in keeping our campus safe by coordinating safety drills and helping ensure the school is prepared. Above all, Leslie is a student-first person who is deeply loyal and committed to serving our school community. Let's welcome Leslie to come and receive this certificate of appreciation.
We move on to item 3B, Kings Mountain Elementary School presentation, supporting documents. This is, oh, sorry, this is a non-agenda action item. Our next item is, and I'm sorry, it's a presentation, staff present. I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Are
So
you,
let me help you out here. So
yeah,
3B, our next section here is our Kings Mountain Elementary
okay.
presentation. Mr. Jones, principal, thank you.
What am I writing? Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's all right. I must push that button. Okay. Well, I hope that this is my third time doing this year, so I think I should have this down. Anyway, so good evening, and I'm David Jones, and I'm the principal of Kings Mountain Elementary. Our school is a small place with a story to tell, one rooted in belonging, adventure, and possibility. And when I was asked to go up there this year, I went up there my first day, and I go, oh, this is a long way. It's a long way, but I immediately fell in love with the community. And if you don't know where Kings Mountain is, it's up in the hills off of Highway 35. We offer a unique, close-knit environment where students grow to be creative, courageous, and compassionate. One of my favorite parts of the drive, when it's now that the time has changed, is we come up just start heading up the hill. I enter this clearing, and the sun is shining, the grass is green, and there's deer right there on the side of the road. They no longer run away from me. I think they recognize my truck, and they just continue on doing their thing. And it's just such a peaceful, beautiful way to start my day. For our enrollment, we currently serve 41 students across 3 TK to 5 combination classrooms. We started the school year with 49 students, but we saw a few families depart due to job transfers, housing changes, and immigration. However, the interest in our school is higher. Based on the high volume of school tours we've conducted this year, with 3 more still on the calendar, right, Leslie, 3 more? We are projecting, if hopefully we're right, that our enrollment will be over 50 students next year.
Nice.
I think we're at the next slide. Yes, thank you, Rosie. Okay, right. Do I do or you do it? Yeah, number 2. Yeah, is that this? Oh, the next one. Oh no, next one. There we go. Yeah, perfect. No, back. There we go. There we go. Okay. So when we look at our assessment data, our students continue to perform at a high level. We performed in ELA with 46.1 points above the standard. And in math, we were 8.6 points above standard. And we use this data to be very intentional with our instructional focus as we move into the next school year. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, our SIPSA. Okay, I think I said this the last time I was up here. I like acronyms. And our mascot is the mountain lion. And so our SIPSA, for me, for the staff, for the parents, for the community, and it's in our newsletter on a regular, when I do the newsletter, it's out there, and we spell the word lion. Okay, so L, which aligns with our goal number 1, is literacy for all. So we're focusing on ELA growth and supporting our students. And I is independence. We're ensuring that I in the word lion, ensuring students have the academic and personal skills to thrive in middle school and beyond. O, outreach and partnership, building strong communication with families. And we have great community involvement, but we just want to make it even better. But it's like you need something, people show up. And then N, nurturing school climate. We are dedicated to a safe, supportive culture. And I wasn't at the school last year, but I'm really happy, really proud of these results. And it wasn't on that slide. I just recently realized or saw this. Our May 2025 survey results speak for themselves. 100% of our students report that they can name at least one adult at school they trust to talk to. 100% of our students. And 94% feel welcomed by their peers. Okay, next slide. Okay, so at Kings Mountain, students are known, they're supported, and they're engaged in learning that feels real. Our small school setting allows every student to be seen, which I love. We know everybody there. Each day includes strong academic support in literacy and math. Students also have opportunities to build, create, perform, explore, and solve problems. Learning is hands-on, connected, and meaningful. We have coding like all the other schools do, science, the arts, woodworking. We just started woodworking hour. We've done a couple projects. Outdoor learning are part of how students experience school. Enrichment is not separate from learning, it is part of the school day. Close relationships, academic support, and hands-on opportunities come together to create the Kings Mountain experience. And as a result, our students grow in confidence and belonging. Okay, next slide. So at our school at Kings Mountain, community and belonging are built through shared traditions and meaningful opportunities to lead. We have traditions like Stone Soup. If you haven't experienced that, come on up in November, December, the Science Fair and the Readathon to bring our small school community together. And those are just a few traditions that we have. These events help create the connections that give our school its heart. We believe every student deserves a place to contribute and belong. And there's a list up there of other activities that we have. And through experiences like the art fair, students are not just included, they are honored. And the Kings Mountain students, again, like I said, are known, valued, and part of something bigger than themselves. And next slide. I believe this is, and I think, is there another slide after this, Rosie? Okay, yeah, yeah. So in closing, we're a small school with a bright future. We are growing in both numbers and impact. And I want to thank you guys for your support and as we prepare to in this school year, and we're, as you know, we're all preparing for the next school year as well. So thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Before we go, we'll open it to public comments, and since there are none, we'll open it for discussion. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for all the work you've done. And it just shows how dedicated and how much work you really put into not only that school but another school as well. But you've been doing a phenomenal job. So thank you for all your work. And thank you to your staff and that beautiful community up in the hill. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. I had to laugh because I've been up to the school 3 times and I've had the same reaction every time. It's a long way away. And every time I drive it, I'm like, wow, this is really quite a drive. Just a couple questions. Can you give me an estimate of how many of the 41 kids, how many kids are in each grade? Do you have representation in each grade?
Currently?
Uh-huh.
We have, there's 6 in our TKK class, and there's 15 in our first and second grade class, and then 20, there's 20 in our 3rd, 4, 5 combo class.
Got it. Okay. And then how many kids live on the mountain and how many kids come from down here?
Can I ask for support?
Of course. Phone a friend?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Awesome. That's all the questions I have. Thanks.
And how many EL students do you have, English learner
We
students?
don't have any. The family that we had, they moved due to immigration.
Oh, okay.
Okay, cool.
And do you have anything you're trying to improve on or repeat things pretty good how they are? Or do you have any-
Well, my focus going to Kings Mountain, it's been at my focus for all 3 sites was to not go in and change anything, but to build trust, build the community, and kind of be a part of it. And my focus has been just to enhance any programs. And so part of bringing our community members, this was something I had at the high school, and Doug, he suggested the idea, like we have people up here that are retired, they're looking for something to do. Why don't we help support the school? And so we started our community on campus project there, and they come every Thursday. There's 4 or 5 of them. They come every Thursday and Friday, and they help support our kids in reading, not just the kids who need help, but those who need to be challenged. And so we have that. That's new to the school. And then of course, I love woodworking. So we do a little woodworking every couple of weeks. I've called it woodworking hour. So
And do they help them after school?
no,
Is it
it's during
after
school. They
that-
come during the
during
day.
school?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And we just let the teachers know, and then we just collaborate together, and or Kate lets me know, and we do what we do. So
I just want to say
yeah, I'm sorry. I was one that comes in the afternoon, the rest come in the morning. So yeah, sorry.
thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your help out there. Thanks. Thank you all for your service up there. I've only been once this year, but just because it is a drive. But I hope to participate in one of your community events soon.
Yeah.
I would just like to, again, thank the teachers that are up there. Multi-age, really, it's not a combo class. I try and explain to people it's the multi-age philosophy, multiple grades, multiple things happen at times. So kudos to the teachers. Leslie, I told her she was the MacGyver on the hill, right? And so, I mean, when I've been up there numerous times, she's doing 3,000 different things. So Leslie, thank you. The school could not function without you. And everybody else there, right? And then of course, when we were looking at this last year, we had conversations about principalships and leadership opportunities for people to be at different sites, and how would we work this out. We had a director of special ed last year, was the administrator in charge, and it just didn't work, right? And so the fact that David drives up every day, and that's the expectation, that he's there every single day, right? Spends a good number of hours in the morning, and then comes down the hill and works with the Pilarcitos community, which is another fabulous school. You know, Dave, I entrusted you to do a great job, and you're doing a great job. So thank you for what you're doing and your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next will be item 3C, with student board members' reports. And we'll now hear from our student board member who is here, Martine from Pilarcitos High School.
All right, starting off with some bad news. Our grant for a new counselor wasn't approved, and we will continue to search for the chance to give our students this opportunity. No, it wasn't approved. Yeah, we tried, we weren't able to. On lighter note, a couple weeks ago, Pilarcitos invited all yard duties to restorative justice training across all the elementary schools. My bad. This was the first RJ training that was 100% in Spanish. The yard duties would like to be called the Supervisors of Children and Youth, and it was so successful that we have been requested to host another on the last Saturday of this month. So we also have on May 1st, we will have a field trip for the second year in a row to Scott Creek on Swanton Road to help with the release of coho salmon. We do this activity in collaboration with the Michiate Indigenous Land Trust. And then we have hired our new administrative assistant, and she will start the week after spring break. We are excited to have her, but we really miss Suzanne. And we appreciate everything Suzanne continues to do for our school. She does student services, Pilarcitos, and her new HR position. She is a very busy lady, and we owe a lot to her. So she has all of our appreciation. And that's it.
Thank you, Martine. And then, yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry about yeah, we were sad to hear about the grant. Currently, how do you guys have a counselor?
I'm pretty sure we have, well, I'm terrible with names. I'm pretty sure we have Loren as a counselor currently, but I'm pretty sure she will be leaving her position soon.
Okay. Well, we need to work. Next item is item 4, general business. We will now begin general business with the debt management strategy presentation, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Miramontes.
Sure, thank you. So 4A, the 2020, we're going to be presenting the 2025-26 enrollment forecast update report and presentation. We are presenting the district enrollment forecast update, which reviews historical trends and projections. Tom Williams with enrollment projection consultants will be presenting the report and key findings. And I want to thank Jennifer and her team for the work that they've done to set this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. The presentation I'm about to make, I want to start off by saying, when I talk about how difficult the birth numbers are, this is true everywhere. This is not unique to Cabrillo Unified by any means. I have some places like Cupertino where the births are off by 33%. So it's going on everywhere in the Bay Area and California for that matter, with few exceptions like the Central Valley. So the projection summary is in 2 pages. I'm going to read this slowly. I don't know if most of you can read that or not, but the most consequential enrollment factor for the Cabrillo Unified School District has been the significant decline in kindergarten over the last 15 years, and that has corresponding impacts on the other grades. After having been above 300 for the fall kindergarten enrollment as recently as 2003 and in the mid to upper 200s from 2004 to 2014, the total then fell into the lower 200s from 2015 to 2018 and has been below 190 in every year since then. Think about that for a minute. It was in the upper 200s and now it's below 200. That's a huge percentage shift. These progressively smaller classes then graduated upward through the grades, leading to reductions in the totals in each grade level. As a result, the elementary total, excluding the growth in TK that was caused by eligibility expansion, and the middle school total have gone down in every year since 2016, and the high school total has gone down in every year since 2019. Again, this is not unique to you folks by any means. Next slide, please, Rosie. The forecast has some shifts in how these grade level enrollments evolve over the next 5 years. The fall projections for the next 2 years have relatively stable kindergarten totals, but with much lower amounts in 2028 through 2030. These smaller totals are based on the local birth data. These kindergarten enrollment forecasts, plus the expected evolution of student distribution through the grades, justifies projecting only minimal changes in the elementary and middle school totals in 2026 and 2027. Subsequent years have lower elementary totals and, due to nuances in the current student distribution, larger middle school totals. The big change is at the high school level. The high school total instead declines significantly in each of the next 3 years, when the larger kindergarten classes from before 2016, which are now in the grades 10th through 12th grades, will have graduated. The high school total then could stabilize at that lower amount in 2029 and 2030. So the big difference here for the next 2 years is the high school, really the big difference for all the next 5 years is the high school. The specific projected grade level changes are for 6 more elementary students, i.e. negligible change, 1 more middle school student, i.e. negligible change, and 81 fewer high school students for next fall compared to the current enrollments. And net cumulative differences over the next 3 years of 17 fewer elementary students and 26 more middle school students, again, relatively small changes, but 139 fewer high school students. These amounts total to 74 total students in 2026, fewer total students, and 130 fewer total students in 3 years. And when we get out 5 years, there's 157 fewer students. Actually, for a 5-year period, that's a smaller change than happened in any other 5-year period in the last decade in this district. So it's a relatively small difference. It's all basically at the high school level. Next slide, please, Rosie. Now, you're not going to be able to read the numbers here, so I'll just explain the color codings. I'm looking at the size of the classes when they're in 9th grade as they graduated upward through the grades. So a class that's in green means that class exceeded 270 when it reached ninth grade. You'll notice back in 2006, we had one class in the elementary level in green, one class in the middle school level in green, and two classes in the high school level in green. The next largest class sizes for ninth grade are colored in brown. Those are between 250 and 269. You notice that there's several of those in 2006. And then the next smallest classes, largest class after that are in pink, between 230 and 249. You'll notice in every year until 2014, all the classes are in pink, brown, and green. In fact, the majority of the classes are in brown and green in most of those years. And that's why down at the bottom, you can't really see it, but the total net difference over 10 years was a loss of 94 students over 10 years, averaging less than 10 students per year. Then from the fall of 2016 to fall of 2019, you start having your much smaller kindergarten classes show up. The first classes that were between I forget the exact numbers off the top of my head, they're in red, between 230, I think 249, occurred in 2014 and 2015. Every single class since then that translated into a high school number less than 200 has been 190 or less. And that's why you see those purple classes starting in 2016 in just kindergarten and then being in every class from K through 9 today. And you notice that the last of the bigger classes is now in 12th grade. And the next largest classes are now in the 11th, 10th, and 11th grade. So as we go to the next slide, please, Rosie. And again, it's hard to see here, but the three largest classes are grades 10, 11, 12. Over the next 3 years, the graduation out of those three largest classes is why the much bigger hit occurs at the high school level. It's down by 81 students next year and 88 students cumulative in 2 years. And the remaining grades are all purple. But even within those purple grades, there are some nuances. You have two grades, namely now in second and sixth, that have less than 250 kids, and three classes with 280 kids or more. And so just those distributions going forward make very little difference for next year and the year thereafter. But then when we get out to 2028, we start having the small amount now in sixth grade hit the high schools, further lowering the high school number. But by losing that small class from the middle school level, it bounces back up. And that's why we end up with a positive number 3 years out at the middle school level. Again, they're nominal numbers really in terms of change. But what's going on at the elementary level is what's happening in kindergarten. That's what's scary. You'll see birth data later on in this that justifies much smaller kindergarten numbers in 3 to 5 years hence. And that, of course, has a negative impact on the elementary level. And that's why the elementary numbers start to fall off significantly in the 4th and 5th year on the forecast. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, next slide, please, Rosie. This just shows a chart of how the enrollment has evolved since 1993. The information up to 2016 used to come from the CDE website. They stopped having it this year for some strange reason. And then the numbers since 2016 are from files that your district provided to me. And you'll see that in most recent years, from 2021 to 2025, the degree of decline became less. That's misleading because that's the period when TK expanded from 3 birth months to 12 birth months of eligibility. If that had not been included, there would have been just as steep a decline in that period as in the previous 3 years. So when you look at that dotted line going forward, I'm actually projecting a much less of a shrinkage occurring than has happened in recent years, aside from the growth in TK. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, next slide, please, Rosie. This compares where your kids live to the schools they attend and then forecasts forward based on where your kids live. And on the left side of the table, you'll see numbers that show Fairlawn View and El Granada have almost identical resident TK5 numbers, both around 290. I can't quite see. I think it's 295 and 293. The reason Fairlawn View has a much smaller enrollment is it has a net outflow of 102 students to other attendance areas. SDC kids going to El Granada, bilingual kids going to Hatch, maybe a couple kids going up to Kings Mountain as well. So it has a much smaller enrollment, not because there aren't that many kids in that attendance here, but because it has such a small outflow compared to El Granada. El Granada instead gains kids mainly because of the SDC program there, special education. And that's why, even though their resident numbers are almost identical, El Granada has more than 100 more enrolled kids than Fairlawn View. That's important to keep in mind because in the forecast, based on the nuances through the grades in TK5, plus with the new housing being forecast, mainly the Cypress Point development in Moss Beach, I have a decline occurring for El Granada and Hatch, not huge numbers, but smaller numbers. And I've got growth occurring for Fairlawn View, both because of a small class graduating out in the upper elementary grades in that attendance area, and then the kids coming from Cypress Point, which the developer Mid-Penn says will be completed by August of 2027. I'll just say my experience has been timelines on affordable housing in general never meet their official stated timelines. So I'm projecting half of it by that fall and the other half sometime during that school year. However, all those kids will show up during the 2027-2028 school year, even though I'm not projecting them there by October 1. So in terms of how you staff Fairlawn View, you'll need to keep that in mind. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And Hatch has the largest decline, being down by, I think it's 34 kids over the next 3 years. But again, it has so many more students than the other attendance areas that still will have a much larger enrollment than the rest. And then Kings Mountain, question came up, how many kids are from within the attendance area and how many from without? You'll see right there that as of last October 1, he said they've lost 5 students since then, but as of last October 1, they had 24 from within the attendance area and 22 from without the attendance area. And that enrollment is expected to stay basically stable. That resident student number is expected to stay stable. The big enrollment difference will be how many more kids choose to come up the hill to that school. Next slide, please, Rosie. Okay, I do all my analyses based on where the kids live, not the schools they happen to attend, and only when I'm done with all those analyses do I try and come back to enrollment. And I, in my first study for any district, will drive every street, every block of every street if possible, to divide the district up into planning areas which, wherever feasible, represent a basic housing type and a basic general income level. Not because I care if a kid is rich or poor, but because I want to understand where the enrollment is or is not changing, and from that evaluate its likelihood to continue. And in the bottom part of each of these sections, the yellow section, the orange section, the next page, we'll have the brown section, I'm comparing what happened over 3 years and what happened over the last 6 years. And for what I call the relatively most affordable and affordable housing in the district, you're down 31% students over the last 6 years. Almost a third of those kids are gone in the last 6 years. Now, the pandemic factored in that to some extent. Probably ICE is factoring into that to some extent. But nonetheless, compared to the other housing, that's where your biggest declines are occurring, as in your most affordable housing. And over the last 6 years, that was 31%, but over the last 3 years, 15%, or essentially half of that, occurred. So it's been just as much loss in the last 3 years as in the 3 years before that in percentage terms. A little bit smaller decline in K2, but it still went down by 12 kids, which is more than the rest of the district combined. When I get into the relatively middle value housing, the bottom part, that also was down 15%. That was over 15% over the last 6 years. But you'll notice that whereas the relatively most affordable went down another 15%, the moderate homes only went down another 7% in the last 3 years. In other words, again, the loss was greater in recent years in relatively most affordable housing than the middle value housing. In the critical K2 group, it's only down by 3 kids, a flat number. Next slide, please, Rosie. Then when I get into your higher value neighborhoods, that had the biggest loss from 6 years ago to 3 years ago, partly due to the pandemic, I think having kids temporarily going after private schools or homeschooling or whatever. But in the last 3 years, it's only gone down 1%. And in K2, it only went down by 5 kids. So again, when I talk about what's going on in your enrollments, you're having better stability occurring in the last 3 years in your middle value housing and your expensive housing than your most affordable housing. The other important thing to notice in the high value housing in particular is I have a distribution in each of these 3 grade groups, K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9, 11, that are very similar numbers. That tells me that these are a good mix of family ages and probably similar numbers of kids coming up in the next few kindergartens. What I didn't discuss in the previous 2 screens was that there are smaller numbers in the lower grades than in the high school grades now. And that tells me that the average family age in those housing types are getting older and more likely to have smaller kindergarten numbers in the next 3 years. So the attendance areas that have a concentration of the more expensive housing will probably have better stability than those that have the most affordable housing. Next slide, please, Rosie. I'm not going to dwell too long on this. other than to point out that what a cumulative advancement rate means is if I have a certain number of kids in first grade 1 year, based on the average grade to grade rates through the various grades, how many would end up in 8th grade 7 years later if those rates continued? And you had very high rates relative to most districts before the pandemic. You had very low rates during the pandemic, which happened to everybody. And you had a rebound after the pandemic, which happened to everybody. But your rebounded rates since the pandemic did not exceed the rates before the pandemic. And that's a critical flag to me because that tells me the latest rates are realistic to continue. In some districts, they had such a severe bounce back of kids returning from private schools in 2022 and 2023 that it created abnormally high rates that weren't likely to continue. I don't see that in your district. Bottom line is the latest rates in the 3 value categories you got there, relatively most affordable, middle value, and high value, are all very close to 1.00, plus or minus 10%. So again, that tells me the big factor of this district isn't gains or losses that are happening, crushing from 5th grade to 6th grade, or more kids losing as they graduate up in more affordable housing than expensive housing. The big difference is what happens in kindergarten, and that goes to the rest of the grades. So kindergarten is a more critical flag here than most districts in terms of what's likely to happen in the future. Next slide, please, Rosie. And that's why this slide is so scary. This is a very complex slide, but I will say I'm comparing the local births in the El Granada and Half Moon Bay zip codes specifically to the number of kindergartens enrolled in the district from those zip codes 5 years later. And I want to know how that ratio evolved, and I want to know how those birth numbers evolved. And although it's very hard to see, in the orange column, there are numbers in the 180s and 190s. I think there's even a 200 there somewhere in past years of births. The births correlating to the current kindergartners from 5 years ago was 170 in those 2 zip codes. For the next 2 years, the births actually bounced up slightly in those 2 zip codes, suggesting a slight increase in kindergarten for the next 2 years. However, the 2 latest years of birth data, the numbers collapse. What correlates to the current kindergartners is 170. What correlates to the kindergartners 4 years from now is 124, I think it is. That's essentially a third less kindergartners 4 years from now in those 2 zip codes. Now, I don't include the 2 zip codes relevant to Moss Beach and Monterey here because I couldn't find much correlation. But nonetheless, the number of births in those zip codes also in 2024 is way down. So for the district as a whole, for the next 2 years, we're looking at pretty stable kindergarten numbers. In 3 to 5 years, we're looking at lower kindergarten numbers with corresponding impacts. Does that make sense to everybody? Next slide, please, Rosie. And then, of course, there is new housing going on. As I mentioned, the big one for the next 3 years is going to be Cypress Point in Moss Beach, with corresponding impact on the enrollments at Fairlawn View in particular. We're also helping out the secondary grade levels as well. And that's in there in 2027 and 2028. Again, to restate, even though some of those are in the 12 months to October 1, 2028, they'll all be in during the 2027-2028 school year. There's another mid-pen housing project that's just been proposed on Main Street. I think it's 740 Main Street or 940 Main Street for another 70 below market rate units. These will be apartments. They don't generate as many kids as townhouses do, but nonetheless, that will be a beneficial factor on the enrollment in the 3 to 5 year time frame. And those are the 2 main projects I see helping the district enrollment out from new housing. There are some other projects proposed, small numbers here and there, but not high student generation rates expected in them. For the pending school year, the only development likely is the Creekside development next to the Shoreline Shopping Center with 12 detached homes and 4 below market rate units and 3 ADUs. But really the 2 big factors on the enrollment for the next 5 years are the 2 mid-pen projects. Does that make sense to everybody? And that's my presentation. Questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very informative and very eye-opening as well.
Thank
you. And like always, appreciate the work you do because I know you've done this before for
Well,
our
I know all of you
district.
from before.
Yeah, so thank you. But before I open it up to any board discussion, I'm going to open it up to public comments, and I have one from Kenan Damon.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for your time. Martine over there told me how to look into the consent agendas last year. And so I started doing that for board meetings. And one thing I noticed in, I think, the November board meeting was like the enrollment numbers you guys approved in the consent agenda were different than the numbers approved here, and about 1.5 or 2%. And if, I'm teaching kids who have parents who were born in 2026, and like 2% over that long really compounds into a lot. And I just don't know which numbers are real. The 2544, the 2502 from the November consent agenda. And I think it's important to find out what's real. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your comment and time. I'm going to open it up now for board discussion. Anybody has questions?
I asked you this last time you were here, and it's come up a few times when we've been talking, so I want to ask it again because I thought it was kind of interesting. I asked you if you had any insight into the percentage of kids that go to private schools on the coast compared to the percentage of kids that go to private schools in other places around here, and I thought your answer was interesting. But I'm curious what you have to say now.
Well, I don't remember what I told you 3 years ago, so I probably crossed myself up right now. But I don't think it's that significantly different. The key for me in analyzing private schools is, will that share of the student population change? If they're taking 20%, and they've always taken 20%, and they will always take 20%, then the trends I'm analyzing in your data is accurate. It only becomes important if a new private school is opening or dramatically expanding or shutting down, that then we have to step aside from the trends within the district and say, okay, how are these private school numbers going to alter those findings? And since I'm not seeing a major shift in your private school situation in this district, I don't see that happening. Now, in Belmont Redwood Shores, a new private middle school opened in the middle of that district, and they were really concerned that that would dramatically impact their middle school enrollment, and it didn't make one iota of difference.
Wow. And I guess beyond the enrollment numbers, which is interesting, I'm glad you said that. Last time it seemed like there was all these kids going to private schools because we all knew people. And what you had said last time was, you said something like your percentage of kids that go to private schools are less than other places you see.
I think that's a very safe statement.
Yes. To be the case?
Yeah. Way back in the 80s, for reasons I don't really even remember why they did it, Hillsborough City Schools had a very expensive survey done, checking every household in the community to find out how many kids are going to private schools. And that district is a public school district that, for all intents and purposes, is a private school district. It has phenomenal funding. I mean, the pupil funding is through the ceiling there, beautiful campus, beautiful facilities. I mean, it's a private school for all intents and purposes, and they're all rich kids. And yet there was still 15% going to private schools. And for religious, whatever reasons, there's just some people that will always go to private schools. And it's not a statement on the quality of the education of a district at all. There's just always some parents, for whatever reason, will choose to go to private schools. Again, the issue is, how will that change? And I think there are so many more private school opportunities over the hill than here, even though you have a couple here, that I suspect the percentage is more significant on that side than on this side. I do know for the Sequoia Union High School District, there was a very small private tech school called D-Tech for design tech, that it was in a cruddy little facility in Burlingame that only had about 100 kids. Well, for some reason, Oracle decided to adopt it. It built them a $100 million campus on the Oracle campus, gives them Oracle engineers as teachers, and it became the go-to coding school on that side of the hill and has 400 kids. That made a dent in the Sequoia Union High School District's enrollment. But that's one of the few cases where I've seen a significant difference make. But nonetheless, that's an example how private schools are drawing more from the high school in that case on that side of the hill than on this side of the hill.
Thank you for your presentation. Have you looked at the increase in the Catholic school in town? Is that a part of your numbers?
I have not analyzed that number at all,
Okay.
but what I see in your trends are relative to the birth numbers fairly consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And what I see in your kids graduating upward, having essentially 100% of many kids in 8th grade as we're in kindergarten 7 years earlier, other than during the pandemic, which we all know that was a fluky period that's not being repeated. So to me, if Catholic school numbers are increasing, it's not showing up as more additional losses coming from your district.
Yeah.
I don't have an explanation for that, but it's not showing up in your data.
Yeah. I think they have a couple dozen now with plans of expansion. So it's something for us to keep an eye on because our numbers are shrinking. Anything that they grow will be,
Their
it's
cost.
been, yeah, right.
I have to tell you that that report is fascinating. Like,
Thank
you
you.
know, last time I was talking about, you know, if you want to know anything about our community, because it was the bond report for the bond investors. Like, it goes over everything in our community, housing and the biggest taxpayers. But this is really interesting for housing. If you want to know anything about housing in our area, like the whole coast, like everything's in there, every possibility it was really interesting actually. So yeah, thanks for all the work.
Thank
It's
you.
very detailed, and the amount of detail you go into to get these numbers, because it's really important for us. So thanks for that.
I did have one question. I'm been 1 year and a couple months on the board. So the last time you were here, I was just in the audience, and I don't remember exactly. I hear it's 2023, but like when. So I haven't been able to look it up. Do you know what your projections then for this time frame, 2026, or I guess October of 2021, 2025, how they compare? Like your projections then, did they play out to today? It was,
First of all, 2023 was not a forecast. 2023 was your new trustee areas. It was adopting your new trustee areas. So the last study was in fall of 2022 or the 2023 school year. I don't know the answer to that. I will tell you this, and I say this in the report: the pandemic made everything screwy, and I consider someone pretty good at this. But when we were in 2021, we just had no clue how long the pandemic was going to last, how far it was going to hit, it was just a crazy time. So my understanding is I did pretty good in that forecast. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm off by a bit because the pandemic just made everything dartboard work. Unfortunately, you couldn't say, is this trend realistically continue or not? I'll tell you one thing that we did think back then. We thought everybody's having less babies because of the pandemic, and all the demographers thought that when the pandemic ended, everybody who wanted to have babies would go back to having babies. Well, that hasn't happened. The real surprise from my study from 3 years ago is that the latest birth numbers are so bad everywhere. And we just did not, no demographer thought this was going to happen in the late stages of the pandemic. I think the price of housing is the problem. It's just, how does a young family afford anything around here anymore? There's a new development going in Menlo Park that the homes start in the 4 millions. You could be making $500,000 a year and not afford those homes.
Yeah. You know what also is interesting in your report was the part where you said that in most communities, the low income apartments, usually they have a high turnover of people with kids.
Mhm.
So you have a high number of kids coming out of those continuously. But you were saying here on the coast that people age in place there. That doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen anywhere
And
else.
that's sad to me because that means people aren't having their kids, making more money, moving on to a bigger house. They're staying there for their life. And then the birth rates go down in there because basically
They're all past childbearing age.
they're not having kids anymore. So I thought that was a really sad part of that report about our community.
Do you have a sense of how many students we lose to other districts? Is that a part of the projection?
I don't, but I think that's nominal. There isn't an incentive for districts on the other side of the hill, being all basic aid districts, to take your kids, first of all. So unless it's teacher kids in those districts that are coming from this side of the hill, and I'm sure there's a half dozen of those or something, but basically everybody, with only a couple exceptions, is basic aid on that side of the hill now. And so they have no reason to be trying to take your kids.
I've come across some anecdotal, just from conversations from parents whose kids go to other schools for sports related reasons, but that number is probably small, I would think. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you
you.
for your time and thank you for the report. Like always, we appreciate you.
And I want to add one last thing. I love that drive up to Kings Mountain.
Ah,
Thank you.
You're hired.
all right, moving on. We are 4B. Next item for discussion is the approval of the CESB grant agreement for zero emission school bus initiative. And I will turn it over to Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, for this item, we are seeking approval of the district's CESB grant agreement to support the transition to zero emission school buses, aligning with our commitment to sustainability and improved air quality. This grant, funded through state programs and administered by CalSTART, will significantly offset costs for electric buses and related infrastructure, with additional long-term savings in fuel and maintenance. Staff will also present a separate item for the purchase of 2 electric school buses to support the implementation of this program. And these are big buses that we can take kids on field trips to. I want to thank Jennifer and her team again for putting this together. So thank you, Jennifer.
I'm gonna before we open up for discussion, may I make a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second, sorry.
Now, I'll open it up for public comments. Seeing that there aren't any, we will now open it up for board discussion.
I got one question on this, from someone in the community wanted to know what the long-term maintenance expectations are for the buses. I don't know if you have an answer for that.
I don't have an answer for it, Jen. No, but we can get that answer.
The since you just mentioned field trips, would these buses also, like, would they, for those field trips, would they have to be within the hours that currently our buses can use field trip for? Will they be the same buses that drop off and pick up students?
Well, currently we only pick up students on IEPs, special needs students, so no, right? And so we may need additional, and it could be, we've talked a little bit about how we might do this, right? We could hire some part-time drivers that we only go out Tuesday and Thursdays, and they can stay a little bit longer. Nothing's worse than going to a place, looking at it, seeing it, and then turning around and not really experience the environment. So we want to be creative in looking at that, but we also want to be conscious of teacher work hours and the contractual obligations we have with CSCA to be able to work through some of that stuff.
Oh, yes. I'm right now, it's my understanding, like, if you have a field trip, you have to be back by like 1 or something, which is not the end of the day. I'm not asking for anyone to go longer than the school day. It's just you have to wait till everyone's dropped off, and then currently the bus drivers have to be back to start their routes by a certain time. So just curious if this would allow for like an 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. field trip. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Seeing that there are no more questions or comments, Rosie?
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say no. Passes 5+1.
We will continue. Item 4C, the approval of the purchase of 2 electronic school buses through CESB grant. Dr. Miramontes?
Yeah, we're requesting the approval to purchase 2 electric school buses as part of the district's participation in the ZESB program, supporting this transition to be cleaner, more sustainable student transportation. The total cost is about $882,000. Funded through restricted grant funds, the board's action represents the next phase in implementing the board's prior authorization to proceed with zero emission school buses.
May I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Seeing that there are no public comments, we will open it up for board discussion.
I'm just wondering if you could walk me through the financials of this. So I understand the fiscal analysis, but the way to understand this is that there's a grant involved, and that's going to cover a portion, and then we're going to be responsible for another portion. Is that correct?
That's correct. And Jen,
Okay.
let me see if I can handle it. We've had lots of conversations about this. To buy a couple of new buses is going to be close to $1 million,
Mm-hmm.
right? Jen and her team went out working with Brett McFadden, our consultant. We were able to grab these, apply for this grant, which we got awarded. And I believe it's about less than $200,000 for what the cost would be to us. Is that correct? I say it's less than 200,000, but just to be on the safe side, it'd be less than $200,000 to have 2 new electric buses that we would have spent close to $1 million on. So that's the difference.
So one way for the public to understand this is if there are unexpected maintenance costs, they would have to exceed several $100,000 before this deal would not be worth it. That's one way of understanding that.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. That's helpful. No, I mean, I have an understanding, can't always anticipate what those unexpected maintenance costs are, but it's a good idea to have an understanding of what we might be getting ourselves into. But regardless, this is a good deal.
Probably helpful that it doesn't have a motor too.
I thought I saw it and now I can't find it. The charging stations, is that included in one of these costs? I thought I saw that somewhere. Now I'm
It's included in this SB grant, so not in the bus purchase. And we are actually currently exploring other grants that we will stack on top of this. So hopefully it will reduce out of pocket.
amazing. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Um, Seeing that there are no more questions or comments, we will turn it to Rosie for vote.
Mhm. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Passes 5+1.
Next item is 4D. We have El Granada Elementary School new classroom building C and site work project. Approval of amendment number 2 to the facility lease with Rodin Builders, Inc. And I will turn it over to Dr. Mamontes for presentation.
Yeah, so this is an amendment number 2 to the facility lease with Rodon Builders for the El Granada Elementary School new classroom building C and site work project, which is now about 99% complete. The amendment addresses several unforeseen items needed to meet DSA requirements and formally close the project, with a total cost of about $37,478 funded through bond funds. Approval will allow the district to complete the final corrections and ensure the project can fully be completed and close out.
All right. May we have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Pete. Okay, and seeing that there are no public comments for this item, we will now open it for board discussion. Any questions or comments? Okay, the board has no more questions, so we'll move it to Rosie.
Mhm. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Passes 5+1.
Right, next action item is 4E, and we will now consider the approval of award of contract for Longview Elementary School playground replacement contract. Dr. Miramontes?
Yeah, we're requesting ratification of a piggybackable bid award to Miracle Play Systems for the Fairlawn View Elementary School playground replacement project funded through Measure K bond program. The project includes new ADA compliant inclusive playground equipment, safety servicing, and a marine themed play elements designed to reflect the local coastal community, with a total contract amount of $718,586.99 procured through Sourcewell cooperative purchasing agreement. Staff recommends the governing board ratify the contract award with no impact to the general fund.
Thank you, Dr. Miramontes. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. And seeing that there are no comments from the public, we'll move to board discussion.
So I do have some questions. Can you help me understand? I have a vague understanding of this, but this is a necessary addition because of some of the kids that we educated at Fairlawn View. Is that correct?
No, this is to replace the current playground they have now. I think there's some inoperable pieces. I believe there's some slides that aren't working right now, and so it's basically a full replacement.
I mean, I do have to bring this up. Nothing against the Fairlawn View community, but again, I'm looking at Hatch and I'm saying, we have so many more kids that go to that school, and the playground options at that school, the field, that is something that we're going to have to address, because I feel like the families in that community are going to look at this and say, great for Fairlawn View that they're getting this brand new playground, but the situation at Hatch is not great. So I just want to interject that into the conversation. And, down the road, we'll have to kind of look at that to make sure that things are equitable, especially given they're going to have some of these expenses for El Granada coming up as well.
When was, so it's being replaced? When was?
It's scheduled. It's already gone through DSA. It's scheduled to be put up this summer.
Okay. How old is it? May I ask?
Oh, it's probably, I couldn't tell you. Drew could not be here tonight.
Okay.
But it's quite old.
Okay.
Right? It might be the original. Carmen, did you play there on those playgrounds back then?
Some of that stuff is there.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, some of that stuff was there. Not the plastic stuff.
Right.
Well,
The
and
pipe.
you said El Granada, but El Granada we already did a playground
No,
there too.
I
right?
understand.
Okay.
I just want to clarify. I know we're going to have further conversations about that field and the project as a whole. And again, it's not that I don't want those things for the other school sites, but it's just, again, when you compare that to what goes on at Hatch, there are over 500 kids there. A lot of those kids are low income. The optics and then the actual reality is not good. And so it's something that the board should pay attention to, going forward.
I agree. I just want to add, my only concern is that they're not in town. They're so far away, and to give that part of our coast that opportunity is I think is very important, because these playgrounds are also played by the community, and the community sometimes it's the traffic and just driving over here on weekends is crazy. So I get what you're saying, but I also look at it as a community investment.
Right, and we have conversations all the time in cabinet regarding aesthetics across the district, and that was one of the first things I want our board to see when we went out and did that school tour. Right, and I don't want to say the inequities, because no one here is being inequitable. It's just the funding can only go so far, right? And so I did have a conversation with the executive director and a couple of people from HEAL. We talked a little bit about the expanding the garden at Hatch and what we might be able to do, and if they had any experts of that other side of the grass area, what we might be able to do with that without going through a landscape architect that would cost us quite a bit. And they've got some ideas, but Jennifer and I have had conversations along with Drew about how far can we stretch our Prop 2 dollars when they come back for reimbursements, and how might we be able to do things that would provide the aesthetics of what we expect all our schools to be like, right? And so at the same time, maintaining the coast side because of the sea salt and seawater and sea wind and everything else that eats up at the things we're doing. So no, I appreciate the board's questions.
Dr. Miramanis and the board, it's worth noting there are features at the Fairlawn play structure I've seen that were removed, and there was even, in some cases, caution tape placed on this play structure because it was unsafe. So that's the condition that it's in. It's worth noting since Drew's not able to be here.
Thank you, Roger.
Sure.
And well, I'm very excited about this. Having one child who got to experience the new playground, I also have thought of it as a community playground. So I'm not exactly sure how The fencing is set up as at Fairlawn View, but I would love for it to be available to families on the weekends.
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Okay.
And I've been there on the weekends.
Okay.
Been there on a Sunday and a Saturday. And I've seen the pickleball. I don't want to call them pickleball ladies, but some ladies that were playing pickleball that say they come every week and they talk to me about the people that are on, that bring their dogs out there to run and play. And so Jennifer and I talked about how do we make sure that people pick up after themselves, right? And do we put a couple of these bags out there, because we want it to be a community place. When we went to visit our school sites, we actually stopped by El Granada. You weren't with us, Brianna, and that's the first thing that Pete said is, I want all our schools to have the same feeling. We went there first thing in the morning, and there were, I don't know, 15, 20 families with little kids, all ages, playing basketball on the playground. That's what we want at our school sites. Absolutely.
And I totally agree with that. And I hope my plan, like vision, would be to have all of our schools like this sooner than later. Which is, we reviewed the bond option. So but 100% agree. Kings Mountain, we need all of our schools to have children playing on fun and have community aspects to it. But I love the look of this, and I am so glad they kept swings. I think this is very exciting.
We have any insurance worries about kids being on our property when it's not in school hours?
I couldn't answer that question for you, but they're on our property right now. So we could probably look at that and see what it is. I do not want to not allow people to come on the campus. To me, when you have parents on the campus, it also protects your campus because, it's another set of eyes, right, that are on that campus during the school day to protect the school sites as well.
And not to beat a dead horse, it's not that I don't support the Fairlawn View playground. It's just that I want to advocate for the Hatch families. That's all.
Okay, next item is,
Let's vote.
oh, sorry, I'm
Sorry.
sorry, vote. Let's vote on it.
Uh, All in favor, please say aye.
Sorry, Rose.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Passes 5+1.
Now we are going to move on to communications, item 5A. But before we do, I need to get a consensus from the board. We have 14 comments, which will will take us to 42 minutes. If we allow everybody to have their 3 minutes, and I was just wanted to get consensus. I'm okay with everybody speaking as long as they really do stick to their 3 minutes. And also, if there's same comments and people feel like it's already been said and they don't want to make the same comment, that's also acceptable. But it is very important that they stick to the 3 minutes. What does everybody say?
I want everyone to speak.
You said we also have the written comments that were submitted through our Google form. We don't regularly read those, but we include them in the minutes.
Thank you, Rosie. Okay. We will now open the public comment period on non-agenda or consent items. The board is committed to maintaining a respectful and productive environment that fosters a culture of civility where staff, community, and board members feel safe to express themselves and are free from bullying, harassment, and threats. The board welcomes your comments and requests that you express yourself accordingly. All members wishing to speak should complete a comment card and hand it to the executive assistant to the superintendent prior to the introduction of the item. Members wishing to address the board are all allowed at 3 minutes per speaker, but this may be reduced depending on the number of speakers per item. The total time for public comments shall not exceed 20 minutes. And please note that the speaking time cannot be delegated to another person. Tonight, we will be exceeding our 20 minutes. If everybody does come up and speak, we'll just be 42 minutes. As a reminder, Cabrillo Unified School District Governing Board does not act upon non-agendized matters except under the limited circumstances as permitted by law. Matters raised during public comments will be referred to staff for further examination and action where appropriate. And now we're moving 5A, Community Employment Organization reports. So we have Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association,
There's a-
CUTA.
But we first do the
Oh,
public
I'm so
comments.
sorry. I'm totally went out. Okay, sorry. We will start with um, Lucas Lafontaine. Thank you.
That's okay. Is this good? Okay. Like that. Okay. As you said, I am sorry. I am Lucas LaFontaine, and I'm up here today because I have learned that two of our teachers have been handed pink slips. One of them Thank you. So one of our teachers, I am now learning that might continue in Cunha, but I want to know if this is a final choice. But today, in the past 2 days, I have been asking around and I have gotten, right now, I counted 3 times, 232 kids at Cunha plus 10 teachers signed these papers saying no. We do not want Miss Springer. Again, back to the resume thing. You can have the best resume ever. So, as long as the students connect with that teacher, they're not going to get any learning done. Kids won't pay attention to teachers they do not trust, they do not connect with. My friends, all of them, again, 232 people look at this, and I have gotten multiple quotes on the back of these too. I have gotten 4 people with 3 paragraph messages right here. I am not going to read all of them, but it is that much. That's how important these teachers too are. They affect all of our lives and not just the students. Every teacher, every person who has been to Cunha, who has wanted to go to Cunha, the 5th graders, the 4th graders, our future, whatever, they come up and they want to see these teachers. So I do not want these teachers ever leaving unless they want to retire. That's their choice, though. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucas. That was very well said. And I commend you for being brave enough to come and express your voice and express your sentiments. Thank you for being here tonight. Next, we have Andre Cruz. Oh, I'm sorry. Audrey. I'm so sorry, Audrey. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say I did sign his paper. Hi, I'm Audrey Cruz, 7th grader at Cunha. I'm in his grade. I've come tonight to speak against the laying off of 2 teachers, Mr. Benoit and Ms. Springer. This will affect our electives and our math and our science classes. I've taken STEAM, drama, sound lab, like almost all of the electives. And they have shown me who I want to be and how to pursue my career. I really, 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 really love my electives. the laying off of Mr. Benoit and Miss Springer will take away most core electives, taking away choices in what they take their interests, and will make middle school less interesting for most middle schoolers. I look forward each day to my elective because I elected it, I chose it, I really want it. I had hoped to take ag science and STEAM next year, but that might not be possible. These teachers have taught me and my sister throughout our CUNY experiences, and they're good teachers. I really enjoy seeing them every single day, and they have helped me and both my sister in almost everything. We need to keep them. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments and being able to come up and speak. That was very brave of you. Thank you for being here. Next is Emily Sanders.
Hi, my name is Emily Sanders. I am currently a ninth grader at the Half Moon Bay High School. Agriculture is a huge part of our community. As a result, our high school and middle school offer courses for students who want to follow this career path. But at Cunyer, Mr. Benoit is the only teacher that currently teaches agriculture-based classes. These classes are important to have during middle school as it helps the students decide whether or not they would like to continue in the agricultural program during high school and beyond that. The Half Moon Bay High School's website states that the agricultural program helps provide the students aid in future career paths and getting involved with their local community. These are just a few examples of how important these agricultural courses and skills are to the students that will soon become the leaders of our future. I kindly ask you to reconsider your actions that could affect the agriculture program not just at Cunha, but into our high school as well.
Hi, I'm Shiloh. I'm also a ninth grader, and I would just like to say that I had both of these teachers, and they were two of the most important teachers to me in my experience. They were both so influential on this community, and this ag science department is very important. I'm not even a part of it, and I'm speaking about it, and I want it to be there for the people who do want to be a part of this. It's very important for these middle school students to have it. And I would also like to say that I know while I was there, while I was in eighth grade, I know Miss Springer had a pride club. And I think this is very, very important to have, whether or not, I don't know, like you are a part of it. It's, I don't know, it's important for middle schoolers to be able to express themselves and feel respected at the same time and feel comfortable with themselves. And they just need to be comfortable in their own bodies and their own minds and their own feelings. And I think Miss Springer has very much helped with that with many of my friends and many of the people I know. And I would just like to say that I love these two teachers, and I would really love if they could stay and keep their jobs. And I just love them so much.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you for being here and letting us know how you guys feel. Next is Laura Sanders.
Good evening, board members. My name is Laura Sanders. I'm a community member, a parent of two CUSD students, one of whom you just heard from, and a former member of the El Granada PTO board. And I'm here tonight to speak out against the pink slips for Mr. Benoit and Ms. Springer, the choice to maximize class sizes next year for science and math, and to cut some of our STEM electives. I am a scientist working in biotech, and I can tell you that we still have room for improvement in terms of diversity in this field, and that starts here in our schools by engaging and inspiring students of all backgrounds to pursue the hard sciences. I also want to say that if we lose Ms. Springer, we lose way more than just a math teacher. You've heard so much about how she connects with students. Both of my daughters have had the privilege of being in her class, and I can tell you that it has transformed them. They've both been great students, but none of them really had a love for math until they were in Ms. Springer's class. Emily was able to accelerate into the high school path there. My daughter Rachel is hoping to do the same, and the other night, when she was getting ready for bed, she said to me, "Mom, is it weird that I'm really excited that I have a math test this week?" And she now loves math because of Miss Springer. Thank you, Miss Springer. I also want to focus on the loss of the electives and what that means for our students. our high school ag science program and track are sought after. They're unique. Our FFA club is incredibly strong, as evidenced by the number of awards received across many categories at recent competitions. And I believe that the strength of that is a large part due to the program here at CUNA. That's where students get engaged and inspired by this sense. And if we lose Mr. Benoit, these programs will suffer at both the middle school and the high school. But science isn't the only thing that students learn in the Ag Science elective. My oldest daughter, you just heard from, took Ag Science all 3 years at CUNA, and her final project was to identify something to improve the CUNA Little Farm, write a proposal, and then on how to implement it. And I can tell you she was incredibly excited when she came home and told me that Miss Myers, the former teacher, had chosen one of her proposal to actually implement on the farm. As a parent observing, what she learned is more than just the science and more than just how to fix something on a farm. She learned how to look around at the world around her, find something that can be improved, and then take action. In a time right in our society where many people are looking inwards and thinking only about what they can do for themselves, having a lesson where you can teach these students that their ideas and their actions matter and they can have an impact is a lesson that I do not want to lose. So please reconsider this decision.
Thank you. Next is Shannon Murray.
Okay, I'm officially teary-eyed, so wish me some luck here. That was very wonderful. Good evening, Dr. Miramontes, CUSD administrators, student leader Martin Horace, and the board. My name is Shannon Murray, a CUNA parent and a former CUSD teacher of 19 years. I'm no longer with the district, but more on that later. I want to begin with an apology. Being a busy mom, my life is managed by reminder programmed on my phone. On January 23rd, 2025, I programmed email board regarding excellence at CUNA or plan to speak. I felt a deep appreciation as Mr. Clinton shared test data and glimpses of the school community through electives and spirit activities. I even screenshotted a photo of the Ag Science program so I wouldn't forget. But like many things in a busy life, it slipped down the to-do list. Then news of Mr. Clinton's reassignment gave me pause. While I'm grateful the school remains in excellent hands with Mr. Guzman, I regret not speaking when the news was good, because CUNA has been in an era of excellence and growth. I'm here tonight to express my concern over the decision to reduce the CUNA staff by 2 teachers. I have already emailed the key stakeholders about my rationale, and I appreciate the high level of engagement from many. As a reminder, the unintended consequences, including loss of electives, future vacancies in difficult to fill positions, class size increases, reduced engagement and individual support, and credentialing attainment messaging inconsistencies, and most importantly, the loss of truly dynamic educators, teachers that students want to learn from. I'd like to end with one final perspective. I mentioned I'm no longer with the district, but not why I left. Of course, we teachers keep our rationale professional, but the truth is many of us have left after decisions where our advocacy for students seemed to be unheard or potentially unwanted. I was as passionate about saving the Hatch Field and giving students access to it as these teachers are about saving their programs. We have a pattern of not gathering input from those closest to the students, the ones with the deepest knowledge. Please remember, teachers who stay here do not do so for the money, but for the love of students and this community. When we see this level of advocacy, I ask that leadership and their managers pause and truly listen. Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. Next is Casey Owen.
Dear governing board members, we are here today as a united CUNA staff. This letter that I'm going to read to you is signed by every single teacher at CUNA. We are here to express our deep concern about the proposed elimination of 2 full-time teachers in the math and science departments at CUNY. Instead of being far from the classroom, these cuts directly affect students in the classroom. Eliminating these 2 positions will have an immediate and significant impact on our students' experience and outcomes. The following are a few of the practical implications of these cuts. The agricultural science, STEAM, and Sound Lab electives will be eliminated for next school year. These are the exact courses that the district has already spent thousands of dollars on and highlighted for their congruence with CTE pathways. At least 1 teacher in both the math and science departments would need to agree to teach during their prep period, adding an extra 0.2 FTE to their contract and reducing the time teachers need to prepare their lessons. These cuts will limit scheduling flexibility, which impacts the distribution of students with IEPs and behavioral challenges. Many class sizes will rise well beyond their current averages to upwards of 33 students per class. Our community will lose 2 talented, beloved local teachers who represent the future of the CUNY staff. None of these consequences will benefit students, and none of them constitute right-sizing our staff or course offerings. Instead, they threaten to destroy the progress we've made in making CUNY a place where students thrive. We understand that difficult fiscal choices need to be made in the coming years, but those choices should be made not out of convenience or capriciousness, but thoughtfully and strategically in order to minimize impact on our students. In our district's mission statement, it says, "We commit to providing a rich and academically rigorous curriculum in a safe and nurturing environment." And as a CUNY staff, we ask you to consider whether or not these cuts align with that mission.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next is Ruth Ann Walk.
My name is Ruth Ann Wolk. I am the chair of the math department, and I've been a teacher at CUNY for over 20 years. My children went to this school. I've taught many of your children, and my students are now coming and working at CUNY as substitutes, paraprofessionals, and as teachers, like Marcy Springer. In wake of COVID, we have seen more and more students struggling and state test scores going down until this year. At CUNY, our math scores went up 8%. I've never seen such a large increase in all my years of teaching, and our team is very proud of this. Our students are very proud of this. But this didn't happen with plus-size classes. This didn't happen with a reduced CUNY faculty. This didn't happen by letting go of our newest and very enthusiastic teachers. This happened with reasonable class sizes, hard work by students and staff. This happened because we could reach our struggling students. We could reach our students without a voice. We could reach our students who think they are invisible. We could teach our students. Larger class sizes limit opportunities for differentiation and targeted intervention for these students, and honestly, all our students. In short, we hope we will be given the resources to continue this success. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Next is Sonia Myers.
Hi, thank you for your time. I am Sonia Myers. I'm currently one of the ag teachers at the high school. And I worked over at CUNY, and I was the person that built the little CUNY farm in 2021. So it's very near and dear, but I also got to work with both Marcy and Chris. So agriculture, as you know, has a long history in our town, and so being at a Farm Bureau meeting on Monday, and that was stated to us, it definitely was upsetting to the farmers and the ranchers and the community members and the business owners and the ag commissioner that was there and the parents and the students, right? It's something that's not going to go unnoticed, right? And kind of hit on what Casey had said, we had spent a lot of money, a lot of grants, a lot of donations, and the Little Cunha Farm won a lot of awards. And because we had showed that continuity between the middle school and the high school, we showed sustainability as land stewards, and we also were part of that Green Ribbon Award that the district won. And ag kind of has a way of getting kids outside the four walls of the classroom, which is very important, as we know, and also really difficult to do. And Chris Benoit has been a huge part of that. And he continues to do that. And as a teacher at the high school, to see that is really great because we know we have students that are coming up that are interested in like studying what they're learning, right? They're not just forced to be in that class. It's not like a one and done sort of class. It's a memory making class and it's real life learning. It's really important, and it takes a person like Chris to take that on because it's not for the faint of heart. It's not easy, and he does it so well, and he inspires the kids. And it's also a place to like leave a legacy, like what Emily's mom was saying. You know, Chicken Haven, right? It stayed, and it's a place for projects and. It's important in a small district that we keep people like Chris and that we keep these programs. And even if numbers are dropping, we have to be able to provide and find ways to keep these electives to provide that well-rounded education that we do promise and that we know is beneficial and necessary for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tamara Arriaga.
Oh, okay. Thank you. My name is Tamara Yaga. I'm a sophomore at Half Moon Bay High School. I'm also serving as this year's FFA chapter secretary. I'm here today because I would like to ask the board to reconsider the possible removal of Mr. Benoit and the ag elective at Cunha. I want to start by talking about my experience at Cunha and the impact the ag elective had on me. During my time at Cunha, I had the pleasure of taking Miss Meyer's ag elective class. The ag elective class wasn't just an elective, it was a classroom full of students, even though those students were typically not engaged. We sold eggs to the teachers and staff, planted seeds, and managed the farm as a class. Miss Meyer spent her whole summer and vacations following to the build-up to the Little Cunha farm. It summarized her motivation to provide the students a hands-on education. For me, that was enough to start my interest in the FFA. I can spend hours talking about how the FFA has changed who I am. Because of the foundations I built in middle school and the support of an amazing teacher, I have gained the confidence to speak in both English and Spanish, a skill that bridges communities and opens doors. This program didn't just teach me about livestock or crops, it prepared me for the real world. It has given me the independence to problem solve when things go wrong, the critical thinking skills to navigate complex projects, and a work ethic that I will carry into every job interview and future career. These lessons or skills are simply something a textbook cannot achieve. Without the ag elective, our students miss out on the opportunity to start their journey in ag at Cunha. But more importantly, without Mr. Benoit, we lose the heart of that program. We lose a teacher who stepped up to a position with extra long hours, a teacher who has a rare level of commitment, care, and passion. When you have a teacher who is all in, who spends their weekends working on the Little Cunha farm and developing hands-on lessons for their students, the students notice. I understand the budget cuts and sacrifices you will have to make to benefit our education. But I ask you to understand that without the skills I developed in the ag program, none of my successes in life at the moment would have been achieved and my future wouldn't look as bright. When you remove a teacher like this, you aren't just balancing a budget, you are hurting opportunities for our students. You are removing the mentor in a class that teaches us that our voices matter, that we are capable of much more, and that our hard work has real-world value. That level of involvement is contagious, and it is the reason I decided to push myself further and accomplish things I never knew I was capable of. It is the reason why I'm able to stand up here and project what I have to say. So I am kindly asking you to reconsider the removal of Mr. Benoit and at the Ag elective so more students can have that same experience that I was privileged enough to have. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I always appreciate the students and hearing from you guys. Y qué orgullo escucharte hablar. Qué bueno que viniste y te doy las gracias por poderte parar aquí y expresarte. Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Gracias a los papás también. Gracias. Next is Mr. Kurt Murray.
First, I just want to say we got some Cunha cross-country runners in here. And before my time starts, 1 or 2, because I wrote 2 speeches. You have to vote. 2. Good. That's the more emotional one. So I'm glad about that one. First, I just want to shout out to Mr. Guzman. He is probably one of the most remarkable and capable leaders I've ever worked with at Cunha, and I think most of our staff would agree with that. He's caring, he makes a plan. If you give him power to do things, he will make the right choices. And he doesn't only care about the choices that we make, he actually cares about us as individuals, which is kind of a thing I think is missing a lot in some of the decisions that are made. I want to talk about Mr. Andrews because he was the first principal I worked with. Probably Miss Springer had him as a principal. Benoit had him as a principal. A lot of people had him as a principal. I'm not going to tell you which one probably went to the office in Mr. Andrews, but I think we could guess. I got sent to his office 3 times, and it's always a little nerve-wracking. The first time was my first year as a teacher. He called me in because he noticed that I was staying way too late at school. And he talked to me about having a balanced work life and was like encouraging me to leave. And I think that's something missing in some of the solutions that I've heard brainstormed from the board. We're not talking about having a balanced work life. The second time was when he wanted me to add an elective. Science is a lot of work. You have to think of preps. How many preps do you have? And in science, 2 preps is enough. 3 preps is crazy. The people who work at the high school in the ag department, they have crazy amount of preps. That's why we have such turnover in those departments. The third time he called me up was about fatherhood. You heard my lovely wife just speak a few minutes ago. And when he called me up, he wanted to talk about how to manage my life in this new stage of chaos. And he never made me feel like a person with just a piece of paper. He never made me feel like a pawn piece moving around trying to solve a complicated puzzle. I have been told that the district is not experiencing any budget problems. The birth rates aren't great in the future, but the next few years are okay for Cunha. We have 26 more. The district's decision to not only hire Ms. Benoit and Ms. Springer back, but to also, I think it's key important, they're also removing teaching positions, do not support any of the long-term goals of our district. Let's recognize our talent. Let's develop what we got. That's why Half Moon Bay basketball wins, because they developed the talent that's here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Next is Yolanda Au.
Good evening. My name is Yolanda O. I teach ELD and serve as the EL TOSA and ELD Electives Department Chair. I stand before you out of deep concern that the proposed changes for our CUNA, increasing class sizes to 34 students and eliminating several of our value electives, will have a profoundly detrimental impact on student learning and our overall school climate. As TOSA, I work closely with English learners, including pushing into classrooms like Mr. Benoit's and Ms. Springer's. I witness the care and intentionality teachers bring to differentiating instruction and providing real-time individualized feedback. This is essential for our ELs who are simultaneously navigating the complexities of language acquisition and grade level academic content. Many EL students are reluctant to ask for help in front of their peers, but are receptive when support is offered individually. However, without doubt, when class sizes go up, student access to critical individual support goes down. Equally concerning is the proposed reduction in elective offerings. For most of our ELs, ELD is a required class that replaces an elective in their schedule. If they pass the LPAC, an important milestone, they are exited from ELD and able to take an elective course. Thus, electives represent more than just another class. They also symbolize the proud accomplishment of getting reclassified. Moreover, students thrive in enriching hands-on settings like Ag Science, STEAM, and Sound Lab. The success of these programs is driven by the CUNA teachers who currently teach these classes because as they share their craft, they are also cultivating meaningful relationships with students, something that cannot be replicated by just any instructor. Through these electives, students express their creativity and develop a deeper sense of connection to school. What is a short-sighted, cost-reducing decision will carry lasting negative consequences, not just for our EL students, but for all students at CUNA. If you're serious about student achievement, engagement, and equity, you must invest in the conditions that support learning. Preserve our reasonable class sizes, protect our elective programs. Our students deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. And next is Vince Fontana.
I want to thank you for this opportunity. There's no one in this room that respects agriculture more than me. This is good, tough on me. I don't mean to be emotional. No time I start hollering, screaming. But the fact is, we all disagree with one another on different things. But one thing we have all in common, we come here with a full belly. That is agriculture. You look at your refrigerator, you look at Safeway, that is agriculture. You look at the economy, billions of dollars it creates, generates, millions of employees. That's part of agriculture. Agriculture starts at the ground. The students you have here tonight, that's the future of agriculture. Agriculture is made from the roots up. There's millions of people that are involved in agriculture, in the industry, in the stores, truck drivers, packers, so on and so forth. But without the farmer and the rancher, those shelves are going to be empty. And you talk about numbers, data, budgets. That's bullshit. Fact is, there's 300 million people in the United States or more. 2% of us are the producers.
We can't hear you. The public can't hear you if you don't speak to the microphone.
2% of us are the producers. So you're going to look at this student body here of FFA, 4-H, think, geez, the numbers are small. We got soccer fields we got to take care of. We got ballparks. We got science classes and everything. But we forget what feeds you. The most important thing is agriculture. And agriculture is number one in America. We not only feed America, we feed the U.S. and the world. So what you're doing tonight, you're going to have to make a decision. This small body of people here tonight, they go across the country and get in with a smaller body of people. All of a sudden, you have a big body. I went through the chairs in the FFA. The FFA is producing tomorrow's food. That food and that future is in your hands. If you're going to sit here and look at your budget and worry about a football light, a bus going somewhere else, the fact is, stop and think about the small group of people here that are your future, our future. That is our livelihood. I don't see how that anyone has to come up and even defend it. Goes to show you what the mentality and the thought of agriculture is. Agriculture hasn't changed. There's drought, floods, crop failures, and the livestock industry is broken bones, guts, and dead animals. That don't change. The only thing that changes is the technology. And the technology is so good now that our herd is where it was back in the 50s, and the livestock industry is almost meeting the table with the poundage of beef because of genetics and people like you and the future farmers and 4-H. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Nancy Fontana.
Thank you, board members and members of the public. I'm here although I'm a very recent appointee to the board of directors for the San Mateo County Farm Bureau, I'm here as an individual citizen this evening. I came here to support the ag elective class, but having listened to the young students and the testimony this evening, I have to say I would like to see both positions and maintained. So this is what I had planned to say. So this is to urge the board to continue the staffing of the ag elective class that introduces students to agriculture. My husband, who just spoke, has been in agriculture all his life, and ultimately running a cattle operation on a number of leased ranches on the San Mateo County coast that he continues today. I grew up in El Granada, where my father had an extensive vegetable garden and raised small animals to supplement the food we purchased. Though his background and education were completely different, I witnessed his appreciation and respect for the knowledge the local Italian gardeners had. They embraced him into their circle, sharing their knowledge, expertise, and gardening secrets. They ultimately gifting him with a quince tree, which is apparently an important symbol of their acceptance and mutual respect, even though he wasn't Italian. My point here is that this class brings students from different backgrounds together, and they have something in common. The county supports agriculture and is proud of the agricultural roots and heritage that continues to exist here. The farms that dotted San Mateo Peninsula are long gone. We have something so valuable here that once gone, it cannot be replaced. We have some, I'm repeating. It should be nurtured and protected. This class plays an important role in accomplishing this by planting the seeds that foster, oh gosh, I'm losing my place, that foster an interest for future generations to continue this tradition. I recall bringing fresh peas for my little grandson to snack on. Then I showed him how to open the pods to expose the treasure inside. He was so excited I could feel his sense of wonder. Time passed, he grew older, and it wasn't a big deal anymore. This class there's a gap. This is a bridge to a future. This class is capturing an age group that is at a pivotal moment in their education and their life experience, and nurtures an interest. And what better school district for this to happen? Because once this class plants that seed, it can be continued through the FFA
Sorry,
program at San Mateo High School, which is the only high school, I believe, in San Mateo County that has an FFA program. So I hope you will support this class and but also keep both positions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Laura Butterfuss.
Good evening. Hi, members of the board. First, I'd really like to praise all of my valued staff members that are here, the students that we heard speak, and the community members, and thank you for coming and for your dedication. My name is Laura Butterfuss. I am the Special Education Department Chair at CUNY. And I am I'm presenting on behalf of our entire department. We met and wanted just to express our opposition to the proposed cuts to the electives, in particular Ag and STEAM from the middle school curriculum. I'm here to be the voice for our students with special needs who could not be here and voice their opinions. These programs are not merely just extras. They are impactful classes where many of our most diverse learners find their path to academic and emotional success. Not every elective we offer is so accessible to these students like these are. So for agricultural science, it provides a unique hands-on application of knowledge that the traditional classroom setting cannot replicate. The value is evident in its inclusivity and accessibility. Unlike the high-pressure electives, Ag Science is easy access course. It welcomes students with IEPs, providing them with an opportunity to excel through tactile learning. For our SDC students and even our students in the resource program, the farm serves as a therapeutic environment. The heavy work involved in the farm maintenance aids in their sensory regulation and motor skill development. Our staff has personally witnessed this impact on a nonverbal student we have being surrounded by the animals and him voicing his care and love for animals when he does not speak very often. Similarly with STEAM, this is a cornerstone for students in our neurodivergent population. We risk alienating those learners who struggle in those standard instructional methods. It's project-based learning. STEAM moves away from traditional worksheets in favor of active problem solving. Kurt Murray says, I don't need to have a microphone when I speak to a student because I say about 3 things and the kids have the whole class to build, create, and collaborate on their own. So it's wonderful. The curriculum's designed to help students build, organize, and plan in that high interest environment. And like I mentioned before, it's an ideal landing spot for students on the spectrum who have a difficulty socializing. They find common ground to engage with their peers through those shared projects and their goals for the class. So thank you for your time and your dedication for our diverse learners at CUNY.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for your comments and for being here tonight. We are going to move on to item 5B, employee organization reports. And we will start with Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association representatives.
First of all, I would like to talk about the young people that spoke tonight. That is a very, very impressive group of young people. I'm 62 years old, but if you guaranteed I had those kids in my class in like 5 or 6 years, I'd stick around. So the first thing I would like to say is, what I'm going to say tonight, it has a lot to do with numbers. Okay, 232 kids signed a petition. First of all, like to have a young person that could reach 232 kids. That's impressive. That's the kind of
Mhm.
kids that we need moving forward as a future here in this country. The second thing is when we talk about numbers, we talk about class sizes. One of the earlier speeches was talking about there would be 33 kids in a class. Hey, I don't know about you, but I know for myself, if I was in a class with 32 other kids when I was in 6th grade or 7th grade, I would not be successful. I just wouldn't. There'd be too much going on, too much distractions, and too many people vying for the teacher's attention. So we need to keep our class sizes smaller. Okay. They mentioned electives, and that's an important consideration. I think kids need a reason to come to school. But one of the other things that was brought up was the idea that these teachers are reasons that these kids come to school. And I think you can't put a price on that. It's such an important part of, why would a kid get up and get out of bed and go to school unless they're excited about it? And these teachers inspire that excitement, and we really need to hold on to that. Now, we're talking about teachers, and I think it's really important that teachers don't have to face uncertainty. I think it's really important that teachers need to feel like they know they have a job. And that's significant, particularly since I've been president here, one of the big fights that we're in is being able to recruit and keep teachers here in Cabrillo Unified School District. And, I think if we are transparent and we communicate, I think we can keep people here. And I think if we serve the students, which is what we all signed up for, we can keep those people that keep the kids coming to school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is California School Employees Association, CSEA.
Hi, I'm Paul Harrison. I really wasn't prepared for what we saw today. I'm really impressed with those kids, and I support their cause, of course. I also work in special ed, so I see. I'm in Miss Hanson's ag class, Miss Myers' ag class. So I see how. We can all relate to kids who could come to school that they don't, the curriculum's not their thing, but you get them outside at the farm and it's a different story. So I'd really like to see those, both the math and the ag program supported and to continue. With that, I want to move on to some appreciation for our CSEA members. We are the backbone, the nuts and bolts. And as someone once said famously, we are the eyes and ears of these institutions. Many of our members' work goes unseen. And as we head into spring break, I'm reminded that while many of our school site workers will deservedly be soaking up some time with their friends and families, there will still be many of our members working on projects around our campuses and taking care of business in the offices and keeping the networks humming. So I just want to thank all our members for everything they do for our students and our district. And that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now we're moving on to item 6, consent agenda. Items listed under this consent agenda area are of routine nature and are not anticipated for board discussion. The superintendent recommends their approval. If any board member requests the removal of an item from the consent agenda, it shall be taken off and individually considered as a regular agenda item. The consent agenda requires a motion, a second, and approval by a roll call vote. Each item approved by the governing board on the consent agenda is considered in full and adopted as recommended. Do I have a motion to approve the amendment, agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And then we'll move to roll call.
Lisette,
Aye.
Pete,
Aye.
Brianna,
Aye.
Mary Beth,
Aye.
Carmen,
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next is item 7, governing board reports, and I will open it up for board members to report out. Don't know.
I can go first.
Okay.
All right. I want to just begin by reminding everybody of something that I didn't know before I got on the board, that we're limited in what we can discuss and decide. Those items have to be agendized. And then the other thing is just important for people to understand that the 5 of us can't discuss things outside of this meeting. So I just want to make sure that people have an understanding of that and we're setting the right expectations. Now something more inspiring. I'm just very proud of this community. This happens to me all the time where something happens and I'm just, it's a wellspring of pride that I live here and my family's a part of this community. And excuse me. I was actually thinking how awesome it is that my 2 girls have these great role models in their community in terms of people who speak up when they feel strongly about something. So thank you. I was thinking about them tonight, my girls, as I listened to the students speak. So I just want to say, I know this is a topic that many people feel strongly about, obviously. These decisions are made for a variety of reasons, and a lot of times they are made for reasons that are complex. They're made for reasons that the district cannot talk about because you're talking about employment factors. There are union considerations. There's employment law. It is a very complex situation, and so I just ask for grace as the community and the district kind of work through this together. I will say that it's really important that the district is fiscally responsible. We have to pay attention to things like class size. And if money was no object, we could make sure that every class is 10 people big, but that's not possible. And then it's also important to understand that we are currently still in deficit spending. So we don't have a lot of wiggle room. In fact, we are still in the red. And so it's something for all of us to understand. As a board, we take seriously our roles, and one of the roles is that we don't want to micromanage the district or the school site staff. If you look around the country and you see districts that are micromanaged by their boards, those districts are not doing well. And so it's something that I have to remind myself all the time. I can ask questions. I can make recommendations if I think I have an insight on something. But what I'm not going to do is mandate the superintendent or a principal or a teacher to make a decision because I'm not an expert on that. Then that's not my role as a board member. But I will say that I do support strategic exceptions to some of the decisions that we have to make, especially if we can see that these things could have positive academic outcomes. We can see that they're strongly supported by the community. I know that Dr. Miramontes feels the same. We've been having those conversations. That doesn't mean that we can ensure any kind of outcome, but it does mean that we're listening and that this is a process and it's not, we're trying to take into consideration all these factors. And then lastly, I think on this topic, I will say that regardless of how this particular personnel issue plays out, I do think the district can do a better job of being transparent and communicating our processes. So I must have received at this point, I don't even know, 50 emails, and a dozen people have come up to talk to me about this issue. That's quite a lot. And so I recognize that. And one of the things that has come through is that there's been a lot of confusion about what's going on. And so that to me is an indication that we can do a better job of talking about this, setting expectations, helping the community understand what needs to be decided, how we're going to make that decision, who's going to make the decision. And so that's something that we can definitely commit to improving as we go forward.
And then lastly, I just want to remind everybody, I've adjusted my office hours. I'm now going to be available to meet with people from 8:30 to 9:30 on Thursday mornings at Cafe Society, and from 2:15 to 3 o'clock at Ocean View Park. Thank you.
I don't know if I'm ready. So I have a seventh grader. He was the first one who spoke. And so this is all very close to me. In a transparent world or whatever, when my son found out some of the decisions that were being discussed, that was not from me, that was from his peers. When he decided to speak, when he decided to get signatures, that was on his own. He told me after. And I didn't know what he was going to say. I just want to be very clear because I tried. Had I known he would have used the word pink slip, and I have learned that those aren't the correct terms right now, I would have corrected him. But, you know, here we are. He's a seventh grader. I am so proud of every child who spoke today, and I think that is what we are hoping for from our students. I can't imagine there were very few scenarios of me growing up that children would have felt that empowered. And I think that speaks so much of the staff that is helping us raise our children. So thank you all. I have decided, 2026, I'm trying to pick out some awesome things that are happening. It has been a very overwhelming week. Not a lot of people know, and it doesn't matter, but I work full time too. And so this has been it's just been a lot, and I'm so behind on life. So I quickly have to think of positive things. One of them was how much our community has come together when they feel strongly about something. I appreciate all of that. El Granada, I can speak to schools that I'm part of. We are having our it's over 50 years of Arts and Science Day tomorrow. And I think that is so incredibly awesome. And again, just how much I love living in this community that we are able to continue something for over 50 years. Just thank everyone who makes that happen. I also was on a 7th grade science field trip on Wednesday, and 7th graders are an interesting bunch. Very interesting bunch. And what was pointed out is while you're walking, our teacher, they were being very open in some conversations. Our teacher was like, I didn't really hear about this in the classroom. And I just think it's the safe space that they get to do this. They get to say this. They get to experience these things. So I was very thankful for that opportunity, and our science teachers who look for these opportunities to keep them engaged and excited. So thank you.
Turn it off. Thank you. Yes, I want to repeat, ditto, emphasize what was shared earlier about thank you all. Sorry, I can't talk. Thank you, everybody who spoke today. So we were listening. Thank you. So glad to see how much people care about the teachers here. So it's really, really wonderful. And I also went on a field trip last week with Mr. Reardon's art class at the high school. So that was absolutely delightful. We went with a bunch of high schoolers all the way down to the Cantor Museum in Stanford. And we got so many compliments from the security staff how well behaved we were, because there were other groups there that were not as exemplary. So that was really delightful. So thank you.
Hi, I just want to acknowledge people being here and talking. I do feel a little bad because I do feel like, I can't say much, but I do feel like things have changed and people are working on things. And I feel a little bad that everyone has gotten really upset about some things that I think are already being worked out. So I kind of feel bad. And maybe that goes back to the process of being more transparent. But but it's really hard because they're HR things and there's only so much we can say. So kick me if I'm saying something I shouldn't, but I'm sure you'll speak to whatever can be spoken to. But I do feel bad because I feel like people are really upset, and I think maybe it's not, many of these things are already being worked on. That's all I'll say. As Pete said, this is also our time that we can speak to each other because we're not allowed to speak as a group outside of these meetings. We can only speak with one other person on certain topics, on any topic that we're dealing with at the schools. So I also want to update you guys on CSBA since I'm on the California School Boards Association committee for our board. There are there's a 4-bill legislative packet that CSBA is putting forward, 4 assembly bills actually. And I just want to update you on that a little bit. There are bills that pertain, I'm not going to go through every one, but there are bills that pertain to holding the state accountable for some of the achievement gaps that we have instead of it always being put on our local education agencies. They're trying to put some pressure on the state to show accountability as well. So there are things like, tracking it, having a tracker, having a public tracker, things like that. But there are 4 bills, and that's the big push right now, is to try to get some state accountability. The other priorities that CSB is working on are budget priorities. One big one is protecting Prop 98. They're trying to withhold money from it, and basically it's undermining the basic principle that Prop 98, that guarantee, should be the floor of the funding that we get, not the ceiling. So it kind of undermines that, and it's a worrisome precedent that's happening. It happened last year too, and it basically is undermining the integrity of Proposition 98. So there's a lot of work being done on that. There's also work being done on funding the COLA and making sure that as part of that COLA, the discretionary grant is fully discretionable. So that's part of that. And then just protecting district insolvency. So that's CSBA stuff. I also want to talk about last weekend a little bit. We had a board retreat. We worked on our board handbook. We worked on superintendent goals. And I just want to thank all of you. I'm really thankful to your dedication to learning stuff and putting in the time, because it is a lot of information and it's a lot to digest. And I remember after I was done with my first term and 4 years, and people were like, "You're not going to run again, right? You're not going to do this." And I'm like, it's almost be a shame not to, because I finally know what I'm doing. It's hard. There's a lot to learn. So anyway, I just want to thank you all for that. And even after 8 years now, I'm still going to you, you poor man, every week with a list of questions. Still every single week, I have a huge list of questions because I'm a biologist. I'm not in education. I'm a realtor biologist. I'm a realtor. What do you call it? How can you merge those two? So anyway, so I just want to thank you guys for that. And I think it's really important that we do things like that because we are a team. We're 5 of us that are trying to be a team of 1 to lead. And I think it's really important for us to do these kind of things because I want to be a strong team. And really, to be a strong team, we need to build consensus with each other about what the priorities are, what the data is, and what our budget is, all that stuff to move forward. And I just think that makes us stronger. So I want to thank you all for that. And just the time that goes into it. I'm always worried about the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? So I don't want any of that happening. So thanks for that. And then the last thing I just wanted to bring up was our board committees. I'm trying to be good about bringing the CSBA stuff here. The ELAC, the DLAC, the budget committees. I just want to, is there a way we can touch base more about the committees, people are doing? I don't know if it would be something to go in our weekly minutes we get, or maybe we do it here at board meetings during our public time. But, whatever. I love hearing what other committees are doing as well. So I guess that's my point there. Thank you.
That's a good point. I think that's something that we should really consider in doing, especially since because of the Brown Act, we can only 2 of us can go at a time. So thank you for bringing that up. Actually, that's a really good suggestion. Buenas noches. Yo básicamente no tengo mucho más que decir que han dicho. Quiero agradecerles a todos por estar aquí. Quiero agradecerles a todas las personas que hablaron en parte de los maestros y de la situación que está pasando, pero más importante, quiero agradecerle a los muchachos y a las muchachas que son nuestros estudiantes que estuvieron aquí y hablaron. No es fácil, es un poco, yo creo un poco intimidante, pero el hecho que lo hicieron y quiero también dar las gracias a los papás que vinieron a apoyar a sus alumnos. Quiero decirles muchas gracias por todo y vamos a tratar, estamos escuchando a todos los comentarios, estamos escuchando a todos y les queremos dar las gracias por su tiempo y por su dedicación. Y más, y también igual que todos, estamos como una mesa directiva, estamos tratando de comunicar y tener una mejor relación porque es esencial para poder funcionar, porque al final del día, aunque somos 5 individuales personas, somos una voz para la comunidad y para los estudiantes. Um, I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I really appreciate all the comments and everybody who took the time to express really your passion, your concerns, and your more than anything your feelings, because it's like your son said, it's important to listen and make connections, and that's very important. And you should be very proud of your son, because that's our future, and just having the young students come up here and speak is very, very important. And I'm not going to make this much longer. La última cosa que te quiero decir a ti, Tamara, es muchas felicidades por estar aquí, porque tú representas lo que la mayoría de los estudiantes y muchas veces no está esa representación. So, muchísimas gracias, y para mí es un orgullo tenerte aquí platicando y abogando por lo que tú crees que es lo más importante y lo que te ha beneficiado a ti, y también va a ayudar a los otros estudiantes. Muchas gracias.
In English, the last part.
Thanks, Rosie. I just really wanted to commend Tamara for being here. We don't really get representation from the Latino community, even though they are the majority of, more than half of our students are Latinos. And just to have her come up here and speak her truth and just let us know how this has benefited you and how it's going to benefit other students is very, for me personally, it's very empowering, and it means a lot. So thank you for having the courage of being here. Is that good enough, Rosie? Okay. And now I'll move it to our superintendent.
Great, super. First of all, I want to thank our staff and parents that came out to show their concerns about our preliminary staffing adjustments. I also want to give kudos to our students. They were phenomenal, all of you, right? And Nancy and Vince, if I may call you Nancy and Vince, I want to thank you for what you do and what you represent in your comments today. I know the community I serve, right? My father worked the fields in Ventura, in Oxnard, right? And my daughter and my son did 4 years of ag FFA in Orange County. So I know the value of this, right? These are all preliminary adjustments that we're looking at right now, right? As they've mentioned, some of these things are personnel things that we really can't get into. But I have had conversations with Mr. Boyson, Mr. Guzman, about how we might be able to partner together to make sure, again, that we're financially responsible, because any adjustment we make now is going to affect things down the line, right? I've had conversations with parents, and these conversations started in December. We don't start planning. It's not like yesterday. We put things on, and there's timelines across, so people know there are timelines that we have to meet, right? And so we do that to protect ourselves, but they're preliminary adjustments, right? I'm learning, and we've had a conversation about how we communicate, right? So I'm learning that we probably need to do a better job. I take full responsibility about how we communicate these things. But what I will say is, it's not a last minute thing. I ask for things all the time, and I get denied by that lady right there. Israel will ask for things, and he'll get denied. And not because she says no, because she wants to make sure that we don't end up where we were a couple of years ago, right? We have to be fiscally responsible to what we're doing. I expect, and there are creative ways of bringing in additional dollars. We have a consultant we've been working with through CTE, Margaret Llamas and Don Fregoso, and we've been looking at other ways because right now, strong workforce, Golden State Pathways, and CT is being flooded into schools, opportunities for kids to experience project-based, hands-on learning experience with credentialed CT teachers using the curriculum that CT provides. It pays for some of these things. So we're in the processes now. I don't want to eliminate the ag program. I want to enhance it. I want to strengthen it. I want to bring more sections to it, right? So we're working on how we do that by still being fiscally responsible, right? And we have a plan. Again, these are preliminary things. Nothing's set in stone until May 15th, right? But these are preliminary things. And again, as I mentioned, my father worked the fields. I had 2 kids that were in ag, and I know the community I live in, right? What's that statement? You don't bite the hand that feeds you. I know the hand that feeds me. I thank you two back to that are doing that. Again, I missed the mark. Obviously, I missed the mark. We've got these people here. Perhaps I should have come to the CUNY staff meeting and said, this is what's happened, right? I'm learning the community, and that would be an opportunity for me to improve. I asked them, give me feedback, and then I even got a letter from the BJ from the Farm Bureau, right? So I tried to call him today, and he didn't answer my phone call, but tried to call him and explain, hey, we're not cutting ag, the middle school. We're not doing that. We want to add sections to it, but there's a proper way to do this to make sure that it doesn't encroach on our general fund, right? And so again, like I mentioned before, we get a lot of asks, no combo classes, right? And if we were to add extra teachers for combo classes and extra teachers here and there across the board, we would be deficit spending, as Pete mentioned. We have to be very careful that most districts do deficit spend, but they fix things with new monies coming in and they adjust things here, right? So again, I don't want to alarm anybody, and I know it's livelihood, but it's a practice that should happen. I did HR for 3 years. Substitute teachers on substitute credentials or intern credentials should be released. And there are exceptions. We talked about this today. If you're a one high school district and you only have one physics teacher and they're on an intern credential, you better keep that physics teacher because they're hard to replace, right? So again, I want to reiterate to the community, there's still a lot of time. These are preliminary numbers, and my apologies to the Kudos staff. I know that Mr. Guzman and all our principals had conversations with people that weren't returning across the district, and we try and do it in a manner that's very compassionate, but very, we don't want to, we want to make sure that their rights and their, I don't want to say that we understand, because it is a livelihood decision, right? So we just want to make sure we work through that. And again, perhaps, hopefully we won't have to do this anymore. But, should we have to go through this, I will do a better job of leading this, right? And we'll make sure that we talk to our leadership, our staff, et cetera, et cetera. I too received numerous emails from the community, and I try and respond to all of them within 24 hours. I'm a little bit behind because I got a second round of emails, right? But it is important for me. And I read those emails and I try and tailor. I don't do a cut and paste. The first part's cut and paste, but the second part really addresses what you're asking me to address. And so again, not for lack of transparency, but I'm learning, as Pete said, I asked for grace, right? And we'll work through this. We have been meeting with Principal Guzman and Principal Boyson to see how we might be able to partner and do things together. And it's difficult. Most schools can do it because they're all on the same type of schedule. We have a different schedule where the high schools are not only a every other day block, but a tumbling block, which makes it difficult, but good for kids and good for staff, and they enjoy it. And then a 6-period traditional day where we grew up doing that. So trying to balance those out can make it difficult at times. And so, again, I do appreciate everybody coming out. And then again, Vince and Nancy, thank you for making the time to to advocate for what you believe in. I believe in the same thing. I just want to make sure we're fiscally responsible. So thank you.
Thank you. Next item is item 8. And so we're going to close for, we're going to adjourn for closed session and continue discussion on the following items: public employment performance evaluation for superintendent, and conference with labor negotiations with Jennifer Marsh and the superintendent. Thank you.